It has been a journey these last several days, and I have been feeling a lot of overwhelm, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, and a lot of desire to move into new ways of being with myself and the world around me. A lot of need for space and distance from things that enrage me. A lot of call for clarity around the things that fear and lack of maturity bring up into bubbling of the space between myself and others. And so, with that very big experience, this is an entry from the day before, a bit of a blowout, almost like it was leading up to what I knew was coming. September 20th, 2022. I am forming time. I am rewriting my relationship with how I am relating with memory and imagination. I am renegotiating how I want to relate with the world. Thank you for being here and calling my connections home. You love the space of you and direct your home into discoverable places of the earth for time and desire. You create your world, and within your world you smooth life outward into the mix of discovery. The greatest landscape of your shattered life meets regulated freedom, and your change of the basics becomes a steady pastime. What you come forward into is the place of allowing a meetable presence within the context of your love. Smooth things over and share the mess of your life without blowing past your own boundaries for self-secure connection. Privacy is important. Self-containment is a skill you are learning more and more about these days, while still not bypassing the truth of your heart. The change of you clears forward your time and resources for folly and strife. The length of long-awaited space moves forward in the redress of your care for a new way of being in this world. We are learning the health and wealth of boundaried relating. It has been a hard lesson, and not one we wish to continue forward without massive change in the style and way that we relate, connect, disconnect, invite, and disengage. You desire clear and steady action with others who meet some sort of something that feels lovely to engage with as a new kind of artist. An artist who values their work, time, and highly developed skills. You speak into space, a kind of distant, quiet thing, and feel what it's like to trust the body and release desperation for love, acceptance, opportunity, and success. Things feel more pragmatic, and you continue testing waters for reasons you would say the mass of counting into different varietals for the trouble of your own skin and softly lay your armor down for more environmental protections. What does that mean? That was loaded and so flowery. Yet, there is a clear sight of you, and you are walking into the state of your own being, which takes some kind of embodied softness to not make yourself sick along the way. What do you discover home over the ages? You discover the life you've longed to live and trust as it evolves into manifest form. Discovering that life that I want to live and trust as it evolves into manifest form. Feels so good to say that. You will and you are gaining greater capacity for healthy change. Sometimes healthy change requires facing really hard aspects of how things are and have been. The hatred of that fills your life and the roots of your family tree. You feel how the bodies of your parents have been taken advantage of over and over again, and you weep. You shift your ways home and learn from your grandma's fierceness. fierceness that I've feared for much of my life, but now I find within it something about what it means to claim this space and fill the air with your spirit. Your way is different. Less anger and hostility, less judgment and more clarity, yet still fire and still intense, and still clear, direct, focused, and engaged. The dividing line between judgment and clarity marks her way through discernment. Discernment, that word, that juicy, juicy word. Feel into discernment in your own body, yet you cannot force others into different ways. You cannot force others into different ways and still feel clear in yourself. And you are capable of modifying how you engage, even as others will not modify how they do themselves. There is a big beast of a toxic masculinity to reckon with along the way. It is cultural, it is familial, it is intergenerational, it is present, it is now, it is here, it is alive. A little boy in a man's clothing, he does not know in his bones what maturity is. He is faking, posturing, and pretending. This infuriates you, and you take steps back. You remove yourself as much as possible till you can see the silhouette of the little boy within and relate from a far away enough space where the distance, that distance enough to not be on the receiving end of a blow of emotions from this little boy in man's clothing that you'll need trauma recovery from again and again and again and again in order to recover from. Trust yourself. Hold this line. It infiltrates more than your relationship with him. It evolves into the feminine. It evolves into the codependent patterns of people-pleasing and appeasement contracts that uphold the abusive dynamics you are trying to unwind from and will not enter again. What do I want to say? I don't even know. I feel like I know that I have been practicing different styles and tools of relating so that I can engage with coming back into connection, hopefully on a weekly basis. That's about a nice timeline to work towards releasing something new. And I've also noticed from what I've been watching that it's can sometimes be less about what you release and more about just the consistency of it. And consistency is something that I've talked a little bit about, maybe a lot of it about in this project, Pages and Process. Consistency has been hard for me. I come from a family with a lot of trauma, and I've had a lot of my own negotiation of experiencing things that my body hasn't been able to complete the process of fight, flight, fawn, freeze. I was listening to Dr. Gabor Mate talk the other day online on a video. I don't remember which one. I love so much of his work and his perspective. And he's an MD that was working with patients, and instead of prescribing them pills, started to ask them about their feelings basically, and was seeing all this healing happen in his patients. And he no longer is practicing medical doctor. He works in the realm of trauma and talking about trauma and how we are often trying to fix something and it's not holistic. If you'd like to connect more, I would love to see you over on my Patreon if you're not already there. I'm doing weekly account able teas where we reconcile our relationship to the past, the present, and future, and how we connect with the three varietals of ourselves that is sort of interfacing with the way we in society relate to time in past, in present, in future, and connecting to the wholeness, the everything of what that also can mean, and how in sort of more of like a indigenous or pagan sort of time space reality that time is more circular or cyclical, and that it's not so linear, and that we can practice both, because there's the reality of the world functions in linear time, or at least conceptually the perspective of it is that very focused, right? And there's measurable time, right? And we need a clock to be able to then go somewhere. We do need a calendar to be able to meet someone at the same time or be able to plan, and those things are healthy and helpful to have along the way. And deconstructing from the power that has over us, I think, is a big part of what it is I want to keep feeling into. Because when we can really start to shift and change the feeling of the now, the how we experience the moment at hand, there's so much beauty that can happen. And sometimes those calendar and linear time things and measurable time things, they just sort of like flow. You don't have to try so hard. And I'm really in the space of my body needs to feel at ease, at rest while in motion, that I want to live a life that feels like I'm actually able to receive. And I have to be soft enough to be able to do that, as opposed to hard and rigid and go, go, go. And the things that my body had to do internally to be able to keep up with the ideas of what I was taught about what it meant to be a grown up or a person in the world or a functioning member of society. They just don't work for me. My body breaks down. And that's something that has been a really hard, long journey of discovery, and has also emerged as I've still wanted to long to connect with other people. The degree to which, well, what I was feeling and maybe what I was saying to others, there was a lack of integrity, that I would feel one way and I would say something very kind and nice. And in some ways, we can use that tool to practice patterns that then we can renegotiate inside how we're comfortable feeling, not trying to change ourselves, but seeing if the new patterns will help us naturally, organically feel different. So, there is a way we can do things that way, a little more outward in. And also, my deepest, most practice is really working from inside out, really connecting to, well, how do you feel inside, and move from there. Move from there with the solidity of your spine. And then from there, if you want to practice new patterns, if you want to even just see if new patterns come to you, there's something really beautiful about the magnetism that I think can happen when we're really functioning in alignment with the core of who we are. Sometimes we don't have to reach, sometimes we don't have to go after, sometimes we don't need to chase the thing or the things or the success or the person or the people or the opportunities that we desire. They sort of start to either meet us and or bloom forth from just our pleasure and our aliveness and what our instincts are kind of, and curiosities are wondering our way towards. So a lot of people talk like this. This isn't new. There's a whole entire, like, lots of people that speak in this kind of way. And each individual, of course, we all connect with it differently. And so if you're here, you might be someone who also either already does or wants to more connect to these kinds of perspectives, and then trusting them. The somatic trust, the body-based trust, is the piece I'm working on now. The perspectives have been in my orbit for, gosh, since I was a little girl, but there's a different kind of very direct engageability that I feel access to right now, not only for myself to walk through patterns that are maybe harmful, hurtful, and just go, but to really shift the way not only I am engaging and moving, but like actually making impact along the way of the patterns, and choosing to be relational with patterns that don't work and seeing if there's a way through, as opposed to either avoiding it or throwing love at it and hoping that it works out. And that's not everything. Some things I do need to block and move on and renegotiate just sort of how I want to live and be and breathe and feel in the world and stay in the world. Where is it that I'm willing to experience consistency? And for right now, that's right here with you. Thank you for your consistency, those of you who have been watching my videos for a while, and maybe you're a patron and have been there for me along the way and are inviting yourself along the journey next to me. Thank you for that. In my heart. Love you, love you. Till next time.